and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello Jace.
Oh, and
how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. In this weird and wonderful time.
In this weird and wonderful time. Welcome to episode 2, though probably kind of episode 1 proper, really, of 9 to 42, the Guitar Show podcast. We're still recording remotely, so I'm still looking at you on a screen, waving. I don't know why I waved. As we're obviously still in lockdown. But we've actually got other pre-recorded content to bring you today, haven't we? We've got an interview with Phil X today.
Yeah. We talked about this was supposed to be done face to face, but
yes, it was.
Time ran away with this sort of post the guitar show, and then we were forced into lockdown. So it seemed ridiculous to hold on to these things for 1, 2, 3 months. Let's just use the technology we've got and get them out as soon as we can.
Yeah, so hopefully, we haven't started to assemble this yet, so we don't know if the tech's going to work, but then if you're hearing it, the tech must have worked, so I suppose that was a redundant sentence. But Phil was somebody, to be honest, I didn't know a lot about before I actually met him. So how did the whole Phil X thing come about? How did you get him to the show?
Well, I doorstepped him, really.
Right. I thought you were going to say Rehypnol, but anyway.
Close. So, as part of my job, I kind of, from October onwards, keep an eye on who's touring, because it's always a lot easier to get American artists if they're going to be in the UK rather than flying them over. And I noticed that Phil and the Drills tour dates have been announced around about Christmas time, and I'd watched quite a few of Phil's Fretted Americana YouTube videos and really liked them. I'm not a huge fan of Bon Jovi, so it wasn't through that. But so first thing I do is Phil's endorsed by Framus, so I get in touch with High Tech Distribution, that are Framus's UK distributor. Message goes back to Framus, can we get Phil along, because it's always easier if you go through a manufacturer. There's delay upon delay. Then I finally get a message the week before NAMM that said, no, Phil's not going to do it. No. All right, okay. And then of course you get to NAMM and Phil's announced as a Gibson endorsee. Hence the reason why Framus don't really want to talk to me about Phil. So I was at NAMM, and one of my mates was there, Dave, who works for PMT. And Dave was the guy that brought me Ryan Roxie last year to the guitar show, Alice Cooper's guitarist. So we went up and watched Phil on the Gibson stand to do a talk. And then basically we doorstepped him as he came off stage. And it was really helpful that I didn't know this beforehand, that Ryan Roxie and Phil X are good friends.
Right.
So whilst Phil gives you all of the, I'll be quite interested in that, blah, 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 actually getting an email from his mate that says, no, I've done the show, it's a real thing. Because, talking to Phil this year at the show, he was saying that, he gets asked to do guitar shows all over the world. Yeah. And some of them are just village hall type fairs and stuff. So, we got a little bit of legitimacy from Ryan Roxie, really. But it's the way this business works, that, every time I book someone to do the show, my sort of like little network expands a little bit further. And Phil was great. He was very polite and pleasant to me. And then it was a series of emails when we got back to the UK. And then sort of like a week, 10 days later, got the full agreement to go ahead and be able to announce it. So that was really cool. So then I have to go on a mad hunt then for a chauffeur company that I can afford and I can trust.
Yeah.
Because I had to pick him up from Gatwick. The rest of the band flew in 24 hours later. So we flew in on the Saturday, picked him up on the Saturday afternoon, You know, thankfully the chauffeur company were texting me the whole time. We're at Gatwick waiting for him. You know, he's just texted me to say he's waiting for his luggage. We're now in the car. We're now going to the hotel. So we got to the hotel sort of like Saturday evening, and then came out for a curry with us, because that's what I like to do with everybody that comes to my show.
That's what you do.
That's what I do. I take slightly bemused Americans for a Balti.
Because I met him the next day. I met him on the Sunday. You've been out with him on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
And you know, just and he's every inch the LA rock star.
Oh, absolutely. Even though he's from Toronto.
Yes, yeah. But in terms of that whole LA Rockstar thing, then LA Rockstar walks through the door. But what a really, really lovely, sweet guy when he dialed it down. You know, when he dialed it down from 11.
Yeah, just a 10. It's something that I've noticed that I would say I know he's not American. But Canadian American rock stars that have done the show for me in the past, they seem to be a lot more comfortable than the British artists I get. Who it's probably a national psyche sort of thing, but they're always very good at working the room. So everybody's in my office, you know. So there's me and there's the team of people that I have on site to help, and they're very good at making sure that they talk to everyone and say hello to everyone. And assimilate quite quickly, whereas the British stars, which are equally as nice, are just a lot more reserved and quiet. And he was brilliant. He reminded me quite a lot of when Scott Gorham did the show about 4 or 5 years ago, and Scott was like, "Does anybody want a cup of tea?" And you're just like, "No, mate, you don't make the tea. We make the tea. You sit there and drink it." And Phil was very much like that, I mean, his rider requests were like really demanding. I'd really like some black coffee and some water, and that was it. In fact, actually, his rider request that came through was a lot more. It wasn't an overly complex one, but it was a lot more than that. And when I was talking to him when he arrived, and I was saying, "Okay, you want a Pret sandwich? What Pret sandwich do you want?" And he was like, "What's Pret?" I'm like, "Pret, it's like a sandwich shop." "Oh, I've never heard of it, mate." "I don't care. Just get me anything." So, which is tends to happen a lot with artists, that the management have sent through a rider that's far in excess of what the actual artist wants or requires.
Well, no, it was. I mean, he got wheeled into the cloakroom, as everybody got wheeled into the cloakroom, and but just as you'll hear through the interview, just really lovely, and really sweet guy, and really interesting when he started to talk a little bit about what life was like on the road, particularly when you got a family and all those kind of normal things to juggle with. But we'll stop it there, and I'll loop the interview in. So the next thing you're going to hear is me chatting away to Phil X, and then back to me and Jason in 20 minutes or so.
All right, see you in a bit.
Cool. Right, so I'm sat here with Phil X. We're still backstage at the guitar show, as you'll hear from bits of noise in the background.
It's kind of a cloakroom, right?
It's very much a cloakroom, yeah. It's been on a couple of podcasts so far. This really is a cloakroom, and it isn't the best cloakroom I've ever been in either.
It's cold in here.
It
literally is cold in here.
Yeah, it is cold in here. So we sat with Phil X. Phil's closing the show on the Sunday afternoon, and he very kindly agreed to have a chat with us. Phil, you're just about to go on tour, I believe. What's going on?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Actually, we start in Nottingham on Tuesday, March 3rd. And then we, hit Bristol. Yeah. I'm doing something with the Entertons on the
with Lee.
5th, and then the 6th we're in London.
Yep.
And it continues on to Birmingham. We come back here.
Okay.
And then go to Amsterdam and do like 8 shows in Europe.
Oh, wow, cool.
And hopefully we won't get hit with the virus is going around.
Well, yeah, either the virus or the weather. You're going to get hit by one of them.
Yeah, I mean the weather I can handle. I'm from Canada,
right? Fine.
So I grew up in Toronto. I know what cold weather is all about.
Well, you should be okay with the cold.
Yeah, but man, when there are venues canceling shows because of this. So I hope we don't get in that.
And that's the
category.
thing, isn't it? I mean, we could get to that point. I mean, because it might be that we cancel anything where people get together in a room. So that's definitely a concern, isn't it? Hopefully, I think we'll be all right. It doesn't seem we don't certainly in the UK we don't seem to be anywhere near that yet. So hopefully
that's good.
That'll be okay. So you were telling me a little bit off air. You've got a signature guitar.
I just joined the Gibson family, and we announced it at the NAMM show in California in January, and I didn't jump straight into doing a signature,
right? Okay,
because I'm getting acquainted with the brand,
right? Okay,
so they're like, man, well, if you could just play the brand, that would be great. I'm like, oh, you mean Les Pauls, SGs, Flying Vs, Explorers? And ES335s, that sucks.
Yeah,
I mean, those are the guitars that when I was growing up and a young guitar player, and those are the guitars that the people that I went to go see concerts. Those are the guitars that most of those people were playing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you know? I know exactly what you mean because I remember. I most of my formative sort of guitar playing years were through the sort of late 80s, early 90s, and when I saw Slash with that Les Paul just slung around his neck, and it was just
I'm not a huge Slash fan, but I have to admit I think he single-handedly brought the Les Paul back.
Yeah,
because everybody was using Charvel, Kramer's,
it was all pointy,
Ibanez. Everybody was playing like Floyd Rose out. 80s rock machines, right?
Yeah.
So when Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine came out and he was playing a Les Paul, I think people went like, because before that, you could buy a new Les Paul for $800.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And then after that, forget it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he did do something really special to the guitar.
Yeah, because I mean, Angus was still rocking out on the SG, and that had a thing of its own.
And that's the thing. I was very into AC/DC, which was the SG, and Black Sabbath, which was the SG. And then, I grew up listening to the Scorpions, so there's that Flying V.
Yeah.
And, it's Gibson's all over the place for me. It was always going on.
So was that, going back to musical heroes then, was that the heroes? Was it AC/DC?
It was definitely it was AC/DC, but then there was Van Halen. When I found Van Halen, that changed my life.
Yeah.
And I'm an old guy, so I saw Van Halen 4 times before Roth left.
Right.
In Toronto, Canada, Maple Leaf Gardens. So it changed my life. Like to be 14 and seeing the band in their prime.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It really was. Like everybody in the band, every piece of the puzzle was perfect, and it was magical. So that was pretty amazing. And then Randy Rhoads came along, and I was always into Sabbath. So Tony Iommi was, one of those guys that's just really songwriting-wise too. Like some of the riffs he came up with is incredible. But it's funny what you remember, and it's funny now when I see pictures with Eddie. Say Van Halen opening up for Journey on stage somewhere, and he would still play like a Les Paul with like the neck pickup taken up. I love those pictures. I think those pictures are classic. I want to string a whole montage on my wall of that stuff. I love because he could blow your mind without a whammy bar back then. He just had it all there.
Yeah. And I think you've got the band at that point in time, and like saying, there's the musicianship and there's the technical side of it, but then there's the sheer energy that was.
Energy.
I think that people somehow forget the energy that was attached to the band at that point.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, particularly when you see those guys live.
Well, he was so inventive, and he also was. Like you said, energetic. Like, I mean, he didn't just stand there and play amazing guitar. He played amazing guitar, jumping around all over the place.
Yeah, it was a show.
And running. Like, he would sprint across the stage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what if he tripped? That guitar would smash into a speaker somewhere.
And he probably did.
And for sure.
But just not the night you were there.
Exactly.
Wow. So that's putting your formative years in that's sort of late 70s, early 80s in terms of where some of those influences come from?
70, let's go into when I was, I would say in 82, I was 16.
Yeah.
And just, I was beginning my adventure as a guitar player. And knowing that there was already an Eddie Van Halen and already an Angus Young and already a Randy Rhoads, and I needed to become Phil X. I Phil Xenides at the time.
Yeah.
So I definitely knew that it was great to have influences and take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and throw it into one big buffet of licks and then do your own thing.
But ultimately, all those greats have a sound, don't they? They just... it doesn't matter who you talk about. You talk about Brian May, and you know it's Brian May. You know it's Angus. You know it's Eddie. You just those things you hear, and you've got to find that for yourself.
Yeah, but it's it's funny though, because I'm also a huge. When I was 16, I was also a disciple of Uli John Roth from the Scorpions, and the cool thing about that is when you dig deep, you're like, holy shit, man. Eddie Van Halen totally got the end of the Ice Cream Man solo from Sales of Sharon.
Yeah.
Like almost verbatim for the first part of it. And you find out who's getting what from what. Hey, and Yngwie Malmsteen, that got that from Uli, and this guy got that from Uli.
Yeah.
And you just... I think, what's really cool about it, and I've been talking about it a lot lately, because a lot of songwriters say good songwriters borrow, great songwriters steal.
Yeah.
And when you're a guitar player, it's more about disguising it.
Yeah.
Just put a little paint on it, so nobody knows what it is.
But then you go back. I mean, Keith Richards will say that. Keith, very open about the bits that they stole and what they did.
Chuck Berry, and the Beatles stole from Chuck Berry. All these people, Little Richard.
Yeah.
If not guitar-wise, song-wise, and I mean, back then there wasn't a lot of progressions.
No.
There was 12-bar blues, and then they'd play around with that. But then the Beatles came up with Help.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on?
Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
No, and it's amazing to listen back to that stuff. I remember Keith having a conversation saying, because like we know the early Stone stuff and where those influences were, but then you get the whole Ry Cooder thing, and he introduced him to the tunings, and then suddenly without the tunings, do you get Brown Sugar, or do you get all those kind of things? And it's amazing how those.
Well, listen to that. There's a little Brown Sugar in Unchained by Van Halen, that kind of thing. There's a little Stones in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Or even like I remember somebody saying that Panama was Dave walking in. Can we get something that sounds a little AC/DC? So I came up with Panama.
Oh, So, and I'm just going to stop now and go back and loop back because we forgot where we come from. So we're talking about a guitar. You were playing Gibsons. You were being asked to play Gibsons. That's where I don't know how we got onto the other thing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like being able to play all these guitars really, like I've always liked the 58 neck.
Yeah.
No matter what company I've been with, I'm like, can we get a 58 Les Paul kind of neck?
Yeah.
I like a really nice meaty neck.
Yeah.
I not only like how it feels in my hand, I love how the sound that it gives the guitar.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty positive that a fat neck adds to the tone of the guitar.
Yeah.
So, and I've been using. And on this tour, I'll be using 264 SG custom shops.
Okay.
And they have a pretty big neck. It could go a little bigger for me, so we'll be talking about that, but it gives me an idea of what I want to do with my signature.
Right.
So, and not only that, I feel like I have an actual 67 at home.
Yeah.
And it's a little meatier in the heel.
Right.
And I dig that.
Right.
And I not only like how that feels in my hand, but I also like the tone that the meteor heel has.
Right.
So that'll be put into the recipe of the Phil X.
So
signature.
this is a journey for the Phil X guitar, then, isn't it? You're now on a. Is there a time against that? Is it just going to happen when it happens?
It's going to happen when it happens. There's no rush. Like, I mean, I'm busy now. I'm doing the Joe's tour all of March in the UK and Europe, and then when I get back, I get 2 weeks with my family before I go rehearse with Bon Jovi in Nashville.
Wow!
And then in June and July, I'm touring all over the U.S. with Bon Jovi, and then off in August, and then September something else is starting up. So, I'm taking notes, and shooting to the head luthier, and saying this is what I like and this is what I really want and stuff like this. So eventually, we'll have the magic Phil X guitar. And what I'm really, really, really super excited about with Gibson is that there will also be an Epiphone.
Oh, cool.
So I know my when I was doing Fred Americana videos, my demographic. My demographic went from 9 to 60.
Yeah.
But the big part of the demographic was like starting budding guitar players, between the ages of 11 and 18.
Yeah.
And
squarely in the team.
I want to get something that they can afford in their hands that has my mojo in it, something that I really put my heart into.
Yeah, which I think he's great, and I think that's certainly when I was growing up and signatures were just coming out and you looked and but everything was just way out of price range. You couldn't have what you wanted, and when they started doing odd things, and Epiphone probably one of the first people to do it. I think Squire did a Hank Marvin, but Epiphone were about the first people to do it, and it suddenly it was like, this is cool because I can be that, I can get my hands on that guitar that I want to, PRS did as well with the Tremonti as well when they brought the sort of Tremonti out that was affordable. So that's a really really nice touch. You mentioned something there that I want to pick up on because we were talking a little bit earlier about you've got a young son, haven't you? And how is life on the road? How's that working with the family thing? That must be hard.
Super tough. I mean, I look at FaceTime as a blessing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it before, facial communication, but the funny, and it's not a funny thing. I say the funny thing all the time. The hard part is that sometimes it's even harder when you FaceTime because it makes you miss them more. Yeah. Like my son is 6 and my daughter is 4. So when I get them on, they say a new word.
Yeah.
Or they say something that they just did for the first time and I missed it.
Yeah.
And then when we hang up, it just totally bums me out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good time to be creative. It's a good time to write, or it's a good time to reflect. Because sometimes you forget to do that stuff on the road because you're constantly going.
Yeah. Well, it's a hotel lobby and it's an airport and it's a.
Well, and it's with the drills. The drills is funny, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks. But this month with the drills is like a sprinter van and dives. Small clubs.
Yeah.
And then in June and July, I'm back to jets and arenas.
Yeah.
So I mean, I played Wembley Stadium last year, and I took the tube from the hotel. I was with a buddy, and he's like, "Well, we could take a car, but we could take the tube and we'll be there a way shorter time." So I'm on the tube.
And that's the way to travel if you're in London.
I know.
It's the way to travel.
And I think people look at me on the tube and go, "That can't be him," because he's on the tube.
He's on the tube. Well, yeah.
But then when I got out of the tube, this girl actually walked up to me and she said, "Are you Phil X, or do you just look like him?" And I'm like, I get that a lot, and walk on. You know what I mean? Because if I stop and take a picture with
that's
her,
it.
then
You're done, aren't you?
Then the line starts, and it's a meet and greet in the middle of a parking lot.
Yeah. So how is that then? Because I'd not thought about that. That kind of, you 2-3 weeks in a van, living the band life of somebody who's in their late teens, versus then living the, the more what you would class as the rock and roll lifestyle.
Well, I mean, it's to me, it's more about what's happening on stage.
Right.
When I'm on stage with Bon Jovi, I'm a support.
Yeah.
John is delivering the stories, and he's the narrative of the whole show, and I'm supporting that. I add the color. I feel energy wise, playing wise, parts wise, and in most cases I'm playing Richie Sambora parts. I don't deviate too much because I think I out of respect of the band and him and the songs. I mean. And some of the songs are songs of my youth, too.
Yeah,
like Living on a Prayer.
We all grew up listening to
You Give Love a Bad Name.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard that, I'm like, who is this? Yeah. And this is going to blow up.
Yeah.
You knew it.
Yeah.
And then when I play with the drills, I'm the head guy. Yeah. I'm out front. And it's so different because it's a 3-piece.
Yeah.
And I musically create the music so that if I'm leaving a space with my voice, I fill it with guitar, and if my guitar doesn't fill it, there's a melodic bass thing going on.
Yeah.
So we're harmonically delivering the goods in that respect. But it's me singing, and it's my lyrics and my songs, and I'm very passionate. It's easier to be more passionate about playing your music.
Yeah.
And I love intimate crowds. I think, when you're in the audience and people are singing your lyric.
Well, you said you were playing in Nottingham. Was that the first gig of the tour?
Yeah, on Tuesday.
Whereabouts in Nottingham are you playing?
We're playing the. I don't know.
No.
But I hear it's a small place, so it'll be the first show, and it'll be intimate.
Because we've got some great little venues. We've got some great, and I don't mean little in that. I mean great, just intimate. I mean I like a good sweatbox.
We're at rescue rooms.
Yeah. So so I mean you great little sweaty rock and roll venue.
That's what I'm waiting. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a place to be.
And with this band, I usually just take 2 guitars, but I'm pushing it with 3 this year because I really want to. I really want to add a different flavor for some of the material that we do. So I brought a 335 to go along with the 2 SGs, and it's funny. It's a different feel, and it puts me in a different space. But on the road with Bon Jovi, I actually have 20 guitars out there. Yeah. You got 2 vaults, and you got the 12-string for one, a Dead or Alive, and a 6-string for the other acoustic song that I don't even know which one that's going to be this time, and then you need tele-sounding guitars for some of the records and Strat sound. You need a Strat for I'll Be There For You. Yeah. And then now I got Les Pauls and SGs and 355s for some of the other material. So it's really cool to be able to paint with that palette. Yeah. And
I don't want to dwell on the Bon Jovi stuff too much, but you said earlier on that you stick mainly to the parts out of respect for what Richie had done and for what have you. Is that something that you were asked to do, or is that just something that you do? I mean, would there have been more freedom had you wanted it, or do you just think no, actually these are great parts? Those songs, I'll just.
That was my decision, but it was the right decision. Yeah, because I mean, I came out the first time I filled in, it was just only 13 shows, and that was back in 2011. Yeah. And I learned a 2.5-hour show, and once I got on the road, I didn't stop. I had to keep learning songs. Yeah. And it was like a. I don't have his hands. No. And I don't play with he's got a different soul than I have, right? We're different people. So somewhere in the middle between Richie Sambora and Phil X
is where you land.
Is this dude that shows up every night and delivers, who is yet to be named. He really needs a name. I'm working on that.
We could do that. We could put it out on the podcast and
maybe
see if we
should do, man.
Suggestions back.
That dude needs a name.
That dude needs a name. We need a name back.
Throw one in the pool and we'll see. We'll pick one.
See what comes
and
back.
Then you'll win a pedal.
Yeah. Right. Well, there we have it. You heard it here first.
But what's really interesting is having been in that situation where I'm just gonna I listened and watched many DVDs of the current 2010 show at the time. So they sent me a Tokyo show and said, check this out. Yeah. So I went in going, okay, if he's playing the solo from the record, I'll play the solo from the record.
And if
he's going off on the limb sometimes, I'll do that too. Yeah. But there were times like Born to Be My Baby on the record is an amazing solo. Yeah. And he totally changed it in the last 30 years. Yeah. So I'm going to do the record on the solo because I love it.
Yeah.
So there were things like that. Being a fan of a band that you play with later on in life is kind of an interesting position to be in.
Well, yeah, because you
got to take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, you go absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, you said at the beginning, Matt, you give Love a Bad Name, and we all remember that song from. I mean, I'm a few years different for you in age, but not many. Yeah. And we remember that song when that song hit, and that it hit with a hammer when it came out. Yeah, to the point where that's one of the songs that my 12-year-old sings in the car. Yeah, and he's listening to. His kind of 90% of the time, it's his kind of era music, and it's kind of R&B-esque, dancey-esque, whatever it is. But then he'll go mad for that particular tune, and it's the power of those moments. We started out aiming to talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and we've talked for nearly 20 so far. So it's been.
Wow. Hey, are the pedal show on yet? Because I want to see that.
No, we need to
5 minutes.
Yeah, we need to go. We need to catch that. Phil, it's been great to talk to you.
Hey, thank you.
And I hope everything goes great across Europe, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, man.
Okay, take care. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.
So that was Phil X. That was Phil X in our cloakroom in Birmingham back on the 1st of March. What a lovely guy.
Yeah, and a brilliant performer. I mean, definitely one of the highlights. So I've got the sort of show reels now through from the guy that was doing videos for me, James, and I think all of the videos end with Phil throwing his guitar around his shoulder, and catching it again. It was fantastic, and I was really lucky. He invited me to go and see the Drills when they played in Birmingham, sort of a week later, something like that, 10 days later, and I was genuinely blown away. He was brilliant on stage, to the point that I actually, having not heard anything, I now own 2 of his albums.
Well, it's funny because I knew nothing about the Drills before the show, and just kind of knew him kind of slightly through the Bon Jovi thing, which obviously is because that's going to be the eye catch to a certain extent. And I've looked at some of the stuff and it's really, and it's not what I expected.
No, it's not what I expected either. It sounds terrible, doesn't it? It was far better than I expected.
He might not be listening. He might be fine.
He probably won't be listening. I genuinely like him, and I genuinely like his music as well.
Yeah. No, really great guy. Sorry, coughing. Shouldn't do that on mic. It's nothing sinister, by the way. It's not a new cough. It's not a new persistent cough. It's just a throat clear. We've got a mic, haven't we? We've got a mic to give away. He borrowed a mic borrowed a microphone. I happen to have a microphone in my box of. I have a spare mic that I take out with me when I'm doing interview records, and it's never been used. It's a limited edition Shure SM58, and he needed a mic. And we were trying to arrange to try and get one from a local store, and it was like, well, just take this one, which he then let us have back, and he's signed. So we've got his mic from the tour to give away. We've got
his mic. He's also got my pedal board and power supply.
Right.
I say we've got them back. Actually, they're in the lockup at Marshall with the rest of his back line.
Right.
That we will get at some point soon, but I know that Marshall are shut for all of April.
Right.
So as we will give it away, and you can win it. You're just gonna have to wait for it.
Okay. Well, should we get something out on Facebook in terms of the competition this week anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we'll do some kind of Facebooky competition thing. Not quite sure exactly what that'll look like. I know what we'll do. As one of the answer for question 3, why don't we make it something that means you've got to have listened to this podcast?
Yeah.
So I'm looking behind you, and you've got a flag on the end of your bookcase.
I have.
Which I will let you say what it says.
It says B Jaguars.
B Jaguars.
Which is when I went down to Wembley to watch a American football game.
American football.
Which I knew nothing about, but was amazing. Brilliant experience.
Interesting fact, Shure work with the company that put that on. They work with the American Football League. They work with the NFL. It's NFL, isn't it? They work with the NFL to do all the provide all the mics for the on-field officials. So that's all Shure. Yeah. So one of Shure's systems, one of his very first outings in beta was actually at that event. So there we are. I'm not going to say which one because I don't know if I'll get into trouble, but yes. So we're going to go with B Jaguars, BE Jaguars will be the answer to question 3, which we'll almost call the secret question. So unless you've listened to the podcast, you ain't winning Phil's microphone.
Yeah.
That was a nice way of forcing some listenership. Terrible old trick there, but we might as well use it.
Well,
so we'll run that for what? Run it for a few weeks?
Let's run it. For a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Give people a chance to discover this
work of art. Plus, obviously, it gives us a chance to get the mic back. So, and we've perhaps got some stuff, some runners-up prizes as well. Have we perhaps got a few t-shirts left? I've
got some Guitar Show t-shirts left, which are in my office. It's also under lockdown at the moment.
Right. Okay, so we'll do that and we'll give that away. In fact, I need to get the box to you because I've still got the box for it as well. So your prize is currently in multiple locations, 3 as it stands at the moment. But we will collate it all together and we will get that out. So look forward to that. What we got in the next episode? We've got another interview, haven't we?
We've got Mike Exeter in the next episode. Mike is someone that I only met at the Guitar Show last year, so what's that, 2019, and he came to do a talk on the Focusrite stand, and he works with Black Sabbath, which is probably the biggest name that he works with, but obviously works with hundreds of artists, and he bought some of the stems from Sabbath and was blasting them out in the quiet times and showing how he mixed it, which was utterly fascinating. And it turns out that when I'm not doing the guitar show, I lecture in event management. And Mike had also started lecturing at the same place, BIM, Birmingham. And so we've now worked together for about 12 months, and then Focusrite said they were going to bring him back to the show. And, you know, the more I talk to Mike, the more utterly fascinated I am by the career that he's had. So I think it's a great interview with Mike, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, no, he was again another person I met over that weekend, and I met him the day before we did the interview, and sat with him for literally half an hour. The first 30 minutes I'd met him, and knew that this was a person I could have chatted to for hours. He was fascinating, absolutely fascinating guy, and it really is a really special insight into a particular period of time in and around Birmingham as well, because a lot of the work he's done stemmed from being in that place with those acts. It's a really worthwhile listen, that one. So we'll do that one, episode 2. And then we've got a couple of others to bring you before we start then going out into the wider world. So as we said in the previous episode, get in touch via Facebook, or and I'll let you give the shout out, Jace, to the Facebook page.
The Guitar Show UK.
And it's the same handle for Instagram or Twitter as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
But get in touch and let us know. Give some feedback, and obviously anything else that you think you might like to hear moving forward. That'd be great, and we can certainly take those things on board and see if we can make them happen. Jason and I have been in the industry for a long time. I mean, 25 years collective kind of MI industry. Sort of history. 50 years collective, 25 each. So yeah, the last 25 years. So there's a good chance we can probably find a way to get questions answered or speak to people you want to speak to, particularly on the gear side of things. And then the only other thing is leave us some feedback if you've enjoyed this kind of rambling kind of nonsense. then please leave us some feedback, because it will help other people to. It will help other people to find it. So whatever platform you're listening to, and it should be across all of them. So we'll be across Apple and Spotify and all the Google and all the biggies. Just leave us some feedback, which would be great. Other than that, I've got nothing else to add other than we'll see you next time. I don't know about you.
No, I'm done. See you next time.
Okay, take care, everybody. See you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.